We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Councilmember Scott September.
Hello. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We'll now move on to roll call.
Commissioner Ashton, Commissioner Anderson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Mund,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Fay,
Here.
Commissioner Blazer,
Here.
Vice Chairman Simon,
Here.
Chairman Bloomfield.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. Earlier, we discussed moving item number 12 up to the public hearing consent calendar. We also need to move items 15 and 16 up above 14. For item number 14, it's the executive session. Just because we want to move along quickly, we will exit and go out this door and upstairs to the next one so that any public remaining here won't have to kick them out to start our executive session. We will exit the building to do that, or exit the room. That being the case,
So I will make a motion to approve the agenda, moving item 12 to consent and switching 14, 15, and 16. So 15, 16 before 14, and the rest of the agenda is written.
thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Munt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have two people who wish to speak with communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town, but not on the agenda. The Commissioner Board response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. We have Ivy Jillian, who wishes to speak, and we have Brandon Rife, who wishes to speak also. We'll start with Ivy. Welcome tonight.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Ivy Gilio. What other information do you need for record, or is that pretty much
Are you
it?
a member of the town?
I am a member of the town of Gilbert.
Okay.
I've lived here for 25 years, actually this May. So I live in Cottonwoods Crossing, and the reason that I am here today, I wanted to find out more about what you all talk about, and some of the things that, comments that you made in your study session hit me. Number one was the importance of the neighborhood impact. As I said, I'm in the Cottonwoods Crossing development. I'm impacted by that Santan Adventure Park that's coming in. So where is it being a neighbor when you're in the neighborhood and you're not contacted? So how important is it for the town of Gilbert to be a neighbor? What does it mean when you're talking about neighborhood impact? What are you doing to make sure that those of us who are being impacted by this are being contacted? Commissioner Munt, you talked the importance of the input from community, and you talked about that in some of these other projects, and I appreciate that. But it needs to be across the board. It can't just be these little parcels. We've been here for a long time. You talked about legacy neighborhoods. I'm in a legacy neighborhood. We're impacted by it. Talk to us. Communicate with us. Work with us. Another thing that I heard during your study session is, well, this is allowed. But where's the difference between what is allowed and what is right? Just because it's allowed doesn't make it right. So I'm just asking you, please communicate with the neighbors. Talk to us on future developments. And then you were talking, you had 2 different parcels. In one of them, you had 21 homes in 3.5 acres and 18 homes in 5 acres. Gee, when you do the math, am I worried about the developer with the 21 and 3.5 acres? No, because obviously the guy who's doing 18 and 5 acres is able to make it work. So why can't the one who's in 21 and 3.5 acres reduce down to accommodate neighbors who have been there for a while, who don't want to have a 2-story home overlooking their pools? So I ask that moving forward, just think about, we're a town. This is about neighborhoods. We are your neighbors. Be our neighbor too. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything too formal to present to you guys. Some of you have probably heard my name because I became the face of the fight that's to come in Morrison Ranch. And I just wanted to give you just a real brief background so you can understand kind of where we're coming from. There's no formal application, I understand, although we're told that it's coming soon. So it's not on the agenda. I wanted to just let you guys know. This area, it would be the northeast corner of Warner and Higley. We knew what it was zoned for. The general plan was ratified, as you know, in 2020, and we read our disclosures. We're new homeowners. My house is it's about 300, maybe 300 feet at the very most from this proposed site. I thought it was going to be one thing, and now it's going to become something else. So the timing is quite curious in terms of waiting until the announcement, or the announcement coming about once 95% of the homes were sold within that immediate vicinity. So we have a lot of people that made quite possibly the largest financial decision of their lives based on what they believe to be low-density apartments within a certain segment, and then general commercial right next to that. And we have the Morrisons attempting to reduce commercial and increase the acreage of multifamily residential, and increase, the initial proposal was to increase the density from low to medium. So we thought we were getting one thing, and then something else changes. And I understand there's a purpose and a process for going about planning changes, because it's impossible to predict the future when we set a general plan and things change, and the town grows perhaps at a faster rate. Our changes we're seeing now are quite significant. If you look at all of the apartments that are up and down Williamsfield between Record and Power, it's incredible. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had to just look at it. Wow, where are all these people? How are these people going to get from one place to another on the roads that we have? The infrastructure is not ready for that, yet we're building all of these apartments. And I think that there's a certain responsibility that we all must have with regard to developing faster than the infrastructure can support. When you have more people, I don't care who they are, more people means more interaction, means more opportunity for crime and for conflict, for noise, for traffic. And I guess I'm just asking that everybody keep an open mind as we go down this path, and please consider the fact that we don't have to race to do this developing so fast before we even have the roadways to support it, before we even know if we have the capacity of the police department to support that many more people so quickly, if we have the capacity in the school system to absorb all those families. I mean, this is just on the corner of Higley and Elliott. we've already got another 850 apartments zoned just across the street. So that would be the southeast corner. And the Morrisons were proposing up to 550 more apartments based on the zoning increase request. Setting aside what they're saying that they want to put there, the fact is changing the zoning would make it possible to have up to that many. So that would be 1,500 apartments roughly, 1.8 cars per household on average. That's a few thousand vehicles that are all supposed to go up and down these roads, already having multiple accidents. I don't have exact facts and figures, but eventually I'll get all that and be much more prepared to present that to you guys. But we got to slow down. I think we need to slow down, be responsible, number one. And lastly, I feel like, just as they say, you're innocent until proven guilty, these zoning requests ought to be denied until proven appropriate to approve. It shouldn't be the other way around. And I almost feel like I'm having to fight to get something not approved. They should the burden should be on the applicant to demonstrate why their request is needed by the town, why it brings about more benefit than harm. Shouldn't be on us to prove why they shouldn't be able to do what they're doing. If we're not going to follow the general plan, why do we have one? So at some point, we need to start respecting that and sticking with that and flipping the burden onto the applicant. They're the ones asking for the change. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. All right. Public hearing consent calendar, all items listed below. Item number 12 is considered to be a public hearing consent calendar. Oh, Scott, I almost did it again. Excuse me. Councilmember September. I even started. I mean, it's in red, and I
Yeah.
still missed it. I
Yeah,
apologize.
No, that's okay, Chairman. Better late than never. So I appreciate that. You've heard me talk a lot about, as the liaison to our economic development team here at Gilbert, you've heard me talk a lot about our Gilbert hashtag together that has helped our Gilbert businesses recover from COVID. It was a three-phased plan, and it was very successful. I think tonight will be my last update for you. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing about it, but I'm very proud of the program, and we just were notified by Governor Ducey's office that Gilbert's program, that the town of Gilbert is in the top 5 nationwide on business recovery. So I think that's something worth noting, talking about, and sharing with you tonight. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you, I'm sure you're aware, last Thursday, there's a very unfortunate incident here in Gilbert. Chandler Officer Farrar lost his life, and a Gilbert police officer, Aranda, was critically injured dealing with a suspect here in Gilbert. I just want to let everybody know that Officer Aranda is responding well to treatment. He was in intensive care. He may actually, I think he's still in intensive care, but he is responding well to treatment. And there's going to be a car wash to support his family on Saturday morning from 8 to 11. And that will be at the Valero gas station on Lindsay and Warner, right there by the Albertsons. In addition to that, there's a GoFundMe that's been set up for Officer Aranda. So I just wanted to share that with you today, and that's all my announcements.
Okay, thank you. Now I can go. Item number, all items listed below are considered the public hearing consent calendar. The commissioner board may by a single motion approve any number of items where after opening the public hearing, no person requests the item to be removed from the consent calendar. If such a request is made, the commissioner board shall then withdraw the item from the public hearing consent calendar for the purpose of public discussion and separate action. We only have one item on this agenda tonight, item number 12. Vice Chair, could I have a motion?
Chairman,
Yes.
can we make sure there's nobody that wishes to speak on that
Oh, sure.
present? And then I'll open up the phone lines and make sure there's nobody who wishes to speak on that.
Thank you for that reminder. Is there anybody who wishes in the audience who wishes to speak on item number 12? Okay. Ava?
I will now unmute the phone lines. Please state your name if you wish to speak on the McQueen Professional and Warehouse Building. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on the McQueen Professional Building?
I don't
Oh, yeah,
hear it.
Commissioner.
Oh, go ahead. No one?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Vice Chair?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including item 12, DR 12-129, McQueen Professional and Warehouse Building.
Okay.
I would second that.
Commissioner Fay, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to the public hearing non-consent, we have a couple of items here. If you're in the audience and you wish to speak, just fill out a public comment form in the back and indicate the item number on which you wish to be heard. And once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission or the board. So we'll open it up for public hearing at the time. First off is item number 10, Z20-11, which is Watterson Central, and it's a zoning request. And we'd like to have that presentation by Keith Newman, who is virtual with us tonight.
Yes, Chairman Bloomfield and members of the commission, good evening. Can you see my presentation? I just want to verify that.
We see it and we hear you.
Fantastic, thank you. The project before you tonight is for the Watterson Central PAD rezone. Let me get the slides to work. There we go. The proposed 143-acre Watterson Central development is located at the southwest corner of Valvista Drive and Ocotillo Road, in the middle of the previously approved and currently under construction Watterson, formerly Hampshire Dairy Project, to the south, and Watterson and the Watterson North development, obviously to the north. The builder for all three developments is Tri Point Homes, which is formerly known as Marikay Homes. I believe it says Marikay Homes in your staff report, but they're Tri Point Homes now. So you can see this nice, beautiful graphic in front of you that shows all three developments, kind of a tri-point little area right here. So the specific request before you tonight for Watterson Central is for a 468 lot single family residential development on 143 gross acres, and which contains 3.26 dwelling units per acre. In order to accomplish this requested, the density that they are proposing, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property from Town of Gilbert SF35 to SFD, SF6, SF7, and SF8 zoning districts, all with a planned area development, in order to request modifications for lot area, lot width, front setbacks, and side setbacks. In just a few minutes, after I go over a few more details, I will discuss the modifications in more detail for you. Prior to going over those modifications, here is the proposed color version of the development plan. Please note that there is a black and white version in your packet that has a lot more detail, but I decided to show you the pretty picture tonight. The development has 4 access points, with primary access coming off of Valvista Drive and Ocotillo Road, and 2 secondary access points off of 148th Street, which is over here to the west. The entrances off of Valvista and Ocotillo will not be gated. However, the northernmost access off 148th Street will be gated. Please note that improvements to Valvista Drive and Ocotillo Road will be coordinated with the town's capital improvement projects for each roadway. The neighborhood will be divided into 4 sub-neighborhoods, as you can see on this site plan in front of you, with each containing a gated access that is fire department approved for turnarounds and so forth. So they will have 4 gated access from the major spine road that's running through the middle of the development. So site amenities, which I'll show you more details on those in a second. Site amenities include a 4.6 acre central park in the middle of the development and 3 smaller parks, one in the northwest corner, and 2 in the south portion of the development over in here. In total, the development will contain 43 acres of common open space, which equates to 32.3% of the total development, which far exceeds the 10% required by town standards. Lastly, the applicant is proposing a total of 468 lots with 7 different lot sizes, which are shown in the table in the bottom right of your screen. I'm not going to go over the size of each of them, but they're in that table for you to look at and color coded on the plan in front of you. They range in size from 40 feet by 113 feet for the smallest size lots, which are SFD, all the way up to 65 by 135 size lots, which are the SF8 lots. And I've shown the labels of where those different zoning districts are located on the plan here in front of you. And you can see, I just wanted to point out that the SFD portion here is located up against Valvista Road with a significant landscape buffer. And I'll talk more about the deviations about that shortly. And it's also adjacent to a future commercial parcel, which will have its own landscape buffer all the way around it. So going into the amenities a little bit here, the primary amenity for the development is the 4.6 acre park, like I already said, in the center of the development. It'll contain a lake, a community swimming pool, a large ramada, a tot lot, 2 bocce ball courts, 2 pickleball courts, and a half basketball court. Please note that since the December 2nd study session, the applicant added the 2 pickleball courts and the basketball court, which further enhanced the proposed central park as an amenity. So that's the Central Park. The next one is the North Park. The North Park has amenities such as a bocce ball courts, a horseshoe pit, a ramada, and a fire type pit, or a fireplace, if you will, in a grass area. The Southeast Park has some similar amenities: a grass area, it has a tot lot, and it has a ramada. So we tried to make sure that there were age-appropriate amenities and spread throughout the development, and we believe these parks accomplish that. The Southwest Park includes a fireplace and a tot lot, grass areas to play in, and also a ramada with seating, and it also has a fire pit as well. So pretty similar amenities between the three, but even though they are just a little bit different as well. The Valvista Road entry, now going on to the entryways, you can see the Valvista Road entry, lots of trees, a pretty standard design for this area. And this actually is very similar to the design of the entries that are located in Watterson North and Hampshire Dairy, or Watterson, if they're calling it now, to the south. And then here's the landscaping of that area, so you can see it in more detail. A lot of linear planting of landscape materials, which is an agrarian style / theming, and a lot of trees. And we're still reviewing all of this through the preliminary plat as well. But I just wanted to show you that they have pretty high quality entry features or entryways at the openings of these developments. Here's the Ocotillo Road entry, very similar, not as big as Valvista. And then here's the exhibit that shows all the landscaping and the trees and lots of plant materials in the linear pattern. Here's the entry off 148th Street, which is gated. So you can see the walls and also the landscaping and the general theme of this entrance as well. And again, here's the more detailed landscape plan, which we are currently reviewing as part of the preliminary plat. Here's the wall and fence plan. Walls and fences throughout the neighborhood will match the theme and design that's already previously approved for the Watterston and Watterston North projects, and consist of 6 to 8 foot high walls and fences based on their location, with materials consisting of CMU block, slump block, brick veneer, wrought iron, and view fencing next to various open spaces. And then the next exhibit here is showing what some of those walls look like. Again, they match the walls that are in Watterston North and Watterston to the south. The phasing plan, they will be developing this development in 2 phases, with phase 1 consisting of 215 lots and phase 2 consisting of 253 lots, which is in the yellow. Now on to the modifications requested by the applicant. The first one is for the SFD district, which is you can see it on the screen in front of you. It's not technically a modification, but simply a development standard the developer has requested for the SFD lots to decrease the overall height of the homes from 36 feet to 30 feet and 2 stories, in an effort to minimize the impact of the densest portion of the development, which is in close proximity to large lot residential zoning on the east side of Valvista Drive. So they want to lock that height in the height of those homes in place. So that's all for SFD, and the rest of the standards meet the LDC. For the SF6, there's actually 3 parcels in the development that will be SF6, but they have different lot sizes for each zoning district. This first one is for 55 by 108 foot lots. The deviation in this situation is they're requesting to deviate the minimum lot area by only 100 square feet. And they're also requesting a 5-foot reduction in the setback in the front yard. And then the next SF6 zoning district is exceeding the minimum lot area by 150 square feet, but they're asking for a reduction in the lot width by 5 feet, and then the same reduction in the front yard by 5 feet. Staff supports these modifications as the lot will be exceeding the minimum lot area in one situation, and the lot depth by 23 feet for the second chart. And which will provide these different lot depths. Larger lot depths will provide for backyard amenities, additional backyard amenities such as swimming pools, larger area for the deeper lot depth. In addition, reducing the front yard setback by 5 feet will also allow larger backyards. And also note that the proposed 15-foot setback is only for front porches or the livable portion of the home, and that 20-foot garage setbacks will still be required for those front-facing garages. So that's the SF6 deviations, or modifications, sorry. The SF7 modifications, again, 2 zoning districts of SF7. The first one has a lot width reduction of 10 feet, but they are exceeding the lot depth by 128 feet, by 28 feet. And then the lot area stays at 7,000. So still the same size lots, just a little skinnier. And then the one in the chart below is a lot width reduction of 5 feet, but they are increasing the depth of the lot by 33 feet, which again, staff supports as the 28 and 33 foot depth additions to the lot will allow for the opportunity for more amenities in people's backyards, such as pools and ramadas, and so forth. And it will also, and these varying widths of lots will still be intact, which will create a variety of product widths, creating diversity between home designs and floor plans that are required for single family developments. So that diversity will still be intact with smaller lot widths and deeper lot depths. So the last zoning district is the SF8 zoning district, which is which they're requesting a 10-foot reduction to the lot width and a 5-foot reduction of the side yard setback on one side of the lot. The other side of the lot will still be 10 feet. And then again, they're also requesting to have those deeper lots, taking the side to side lot width and putting it into the depth of the lot. And they're also going to have the lot area will be 9,000 square feet, which is 1,000 square feet larger than what is required by code. So staff also supports these deviations due to the more amenities being allowed in the backyards. And also please note that there may be instances when you reduce the side yard setback to 5 feet, that on one side, there could be homes that are 10 feet apart from one another, which meets fire code. And also these wider, which will also, the reduction in a 5 foot to 5 foot setback will allow a wider home product, creating more usable homeowner space and diversity in the neighborhood. So staff would support that additional diversity that would be created by having wider homes and deeper backyards. So that concludes the modifications, but I want to make note of a concern during the study session that was mentioned by the commission on December 2nd, where commissioners questioned what the trade-offs are for approving shorter front setbacks and narrow side yard setbacks, or narrower side setbacks in two situations with the SF8. According to the applicant, and staff would agree with this, is significant effort has been put into the landscaping design, the park and the amenity areas, and the pedestrian experience to create a development that will be an asset to the area, which is very consistent with the development that's in the area in the Watterson North and the Hamstra piece to the south. The site will consist of, like I said, substantial amount of open space with landscape boulevard entrances off of Valvista Drive and Ocotillo Road, which I've already shown you. And then it will also, those will lead to 4.6 acres of a central amenity area, which is the focal point of the development, that has all those major features that I talked about. The lake, which is, a lake is not a common feature for an amenity in the town of Gilbert. There's some neighborhoods that have it, but it's definitely an upgrade of a feature, and in this neighborhood. The basketball courts, the pickleball courts, a lot of age-appropriate amenities. They'll have a swimming pool, the large ramada. Not many developments have a swimming pool and a lake. And then staff worked with the applicant to add pickleball courts and basketball courts. And Watterson Central will contain approximately, like I said earlier, 43 acres of open space, representing over 30% of the total net site area. So staff believes that those things have enhanced this neighborhood and are good trade-offs to be able to recommend approval of these modifications that are presented by the applicant. So the last slide that I wanted to show you is concerning public participation. A virtual neighborhood meeting was held by the applicant to discuss the project on July 22nd. Only 3 surrounding property owners attended the meeting, and I have a summary for you on the screen of what was discussed, with some of those concerns being density of the SFD, traffic along Ocotillo and Valvista, site lighting concerns, spillover, timing of the development construction, proposed improvements along Ocotillo Road and Valvista, which will be taken care of through a CIP project for the town. Questions about lifetime fitness, and then there was a neighbor that had concern. He has a helicopter nearby, but those were the major concerns and that were talked about at the meeting, of which the applicant was able to talk about and address. So the recommendation from staff is we're in support, like I said, of all the modifications and of this project, and we would recommend that you move to recommend approval to the town council for this Watterson Central project, subject to all the conditions listed in the staff report. And that is pretty much my presentation, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Good presentation and continuation of the development to close out the west side of the town down in this area. So, commissioners, would anybody like to weigh in first? Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you,
Commissioner
Chairman.
Jones.
Thank you, Keith. I think I was one of the ones that was a little bit more critical last time around this trade-off question about shorter front setbacks, tighter side setbacks, et cetera. Keith and I had the chance to talk about this project, and overall, I agree. I think it's just a different way of living. The lot square footage is still there. It's just kind of shifting things around a little bit, allowing people to use their backyards, and the community amenities are pretty great in this development. So I'm supportive.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Fay?
I also was one of the people who raised some of the issues, although that was, I think, my first or second meeting, so I was probably a little bit hesitant. So Keith, and I think that the benefits, the amenities on this property outweigh the sacrifices or the changes that we're being asked to deal with. But there's been a trend over the last 20 or 30 years. Properties have been getting consistently narrower and deeper. Houses don't really front onto the street anymore. It's like the garage door fronts onto the street, and then the rest of the house is kind of buried in back. And it does enable the development community to space out infrastructure improvements more. It just creates an impression of less community feeling, I believe, than the old houses from the 70s, where the front of the house faced the street. And in this particular project, we're being asked to narrow the width or deviate downward both setback and width on every single zoning except SFD, and that's only because that one doesn't have a minimum width. Keith, was there any discussion about preserving the size of any of these parcels or anything? I get that the overall dimension of the property, the area is the same, or in some cases even bigger, almost all of them, but it's really the width is the one that's given me pause.
Chairman Bloomfield, Commissioner Fay, no, we didn't really have many discussions about that. We have been in support of these side setback deviations or lot width, deviations from the beginning. It's a pretty common deviation that we're seeing around the town from a lot of our developments right now. And like you said, a lot of the that space that's on the side lot is going to the backyard, which creates more usable space for the residents. And but we still have our typical 20-foot setbacks in the front, and 20-foot for garages, and they're only asking in one situation to deviate that or to reduce it by 5 feet. But we like all the lot depth. They're in many instances the lot areas are still much larger, as Commissioner Jones stated. So we're supportive of what they're requesting.
Yeah.
Well, then one more, Keith. When in parcel 7, which goes to single family detached, is there any criteria other than we want to fit more houses in that we use when approving that particular zoning?
Chairman Bloomfield, Commissioner Fay, so you're talking about, just so I understand your question, you're talking about the SFD portion is what you're referring to?
Yes,
Sorry?
just SFD.
They have a certain density range that I believe they need to try and hit, and I don't think that may not have happened without the SFD, but of having some of these smaller lots, especially adjacent to commercial, I think that's the biggest reason why they're proposing so much all that SFD is because the land use transition from commercial to residential is a lot better with the more density in that situation. But I can have the applicant address that more if I'm not answering your question or addressing your concern.
No, it's more of a staff,
So.
a general staffing issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Munt?
Thank you, Chairman Bloomfield. I would just say I think they did a good job, and I really do like those amenities. And I think it's a very bold move to put the pickleball courts in.
Okay. Well, we've gotten some comments down. I wanted to get kind of an initial gauge of things just to see if we felt like we needed to have the applicant stand up and give some. We'll open up the public hearing now by inviting the applicant to come if you would like, or if you'd like to, we have at least one person that wishes to speak on the item. We could let them go first, and then you could address their questions, or you could start out.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brennan Ray, 1850 North Central, here on behalf of formerly Mary Kay Homes, now Tri-Point Communities. Happy to make a full presentation, but I'm even probably more happy, given the thoroughness of Keith's staff report and presentation, to defer any additional comments that I might need to make or questions that I would need to answer until the end. Certainly grateful for staff's recommendation and would request your approval in accordance with their recommendation. So with that, Chairman, if it's all right with you, I'll sit down and let the residents speak, and then if there's a need for me to come up afterwards, I'd appreciate that opportunity.
You bet. Okay. We have Patrick McGarry, who is a local resident who is opposed and wishes to speak. Patrick,
Chairman,
welcome.
Commissioners. Patrick McGarry. I live on South Valvista Drive, adjacent to the property, and I'm the guy with the helicopter. If you've driven down Valvista, you've probably seen it. And so I kind of am right next to this. I'm not opposed to this development, but I'm opposed, well, to part of it. Basically, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have 2.5 acres adjacent to that property. Unfortunately, I've got 6 or 7 homes, potentially 2-story houses, right across Valvista. And I don't think, and this was brought up in the previous meetings, I don't think they buffered that very well in accordance with the town plan. So I've got a whole bunch of those houses, potentially 30-foot tall, 2-story houses right across the street, looking right into my property. And I wish they would have done something to address that. Unfortunately, not a lot of public participation in this. The last meeting, we only got 3 people to show up or call in. Of course, every time we talk about this, the SFD issue comes up and the density. I'm opposed to that. Just on, it's supposed to fit into the Santan character area, and I don't think they do. Brennan Ray probably disagree with that, but they do all their math and say it fits into that character. But it's high density housing, and this, you know, at least the spirit of how the Santan character description is written, I don't believe that fits into that. Let's see. Other issues, which is, you know, has been addressed before, and it's still the lighting, which from the south development's already becoming an issue, and I've talked to the city about that with no help. And then the traffic's just going to get worse and worse. They're adding a bunch more houses. You get up to Valvista, of course, is under construction. You get up to the freeway in the morning where it's already as wide as it's going to be, and it's just a big mess trying to get onto the freeway. But so again, that, you know, putting a lot of houses into a small spot, that's not gonna help that issue at all. And I think that's about it. Mostly the you know, buffering against my property there. That's my biggest concern with the whole project. You know, we go from, you know, obviously a very large property to a bunch of small properties right against my property there. And that's all I've got. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. Would you like to open up the lines, Eva?
Thank you, Chairman. I will unmute the lines. Please state your name if you wish to speak on this topic. Is there anybody that wishes to speak?
Makes sense. So
Okay,
Hearing no one.
very good. Brennan, you have some concerns that we'd like you to address.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to, I'll talk about why the SFD in that location. And as some of you may know, consistent with good planning principles, you want to transition densities and intensities throughout a site in a way. Typically, you will locate your most intense, dense developments at the corner, in this case, Valvista and Ocotillo, which is I would consider Valvista to be a road of regional significance. And with that lifetime fitness being at that corner, we wanted to provide an appropriate transition and buffer. And so consistent with good planning principles, we have located smaller, more dense lots, and then we transition away from that with the SFD transitioning to our other districts. So we think we've done a good job from a planning perspective as to why we locate those SFD up in that corner. With respect to the concerns that two-story homes are going to be looking into Mr. McGreary, hopefully I said that right, McGarry, apologize, looking in that, as you may know, as I indicated, Valvista is a road of regional significance that the town is working on a CIP. At the ultimate width, I believe that looking at the preliminary plat, again, which isn't before you, but looking at it quickly, we are providing 80 feet of right-of-way on our side. The width varies on the on the east side of Valvista Drive, but let's, for argument's sake, say that it's going to be approximately 150-ish feet of 6 lanes of traffic with a center median. Obviously, that's a considerable amount of separation. And then when you start to get to our side, obviously there's landscaping. There's an approximate 45-foot wide landscape track up in that SFD area until you approach our homes. And what we've done, again, wanting to be mindful of where we surround and taking advantage of north-south lot orientation, is that if you look on the screen and you see that SFD, we do not have any of the SFD lots that back up to Valvista. They all side, and there's retention that's going there and other things. We're probably a little fortuitous in that area. As some of you may know, I believe SRP has chosen to locate some big power lines running down Valvista. And certainly those power lines, I think they're 69 or bigger. I'd defer to the town attorney. He probably might know right off the top of his head like that what it is. But there's going to be some big power lines that are going to be running down Valvista and that will impact the development of this site. So we believe that there is good separation from Mr. McGarry and the other side. And again, we think we're doing a good job. Mary Kay is heavily invested in this area, as Keith showed you on the earlier slide. What you didn't see is that there's another 275 homes that are in the city of Chandler that are adjacent to, well, you can kind of see that vacant piece of dirt right there where the SF8 and SF7 is. Mary Kay owns that and has developed that within the city of Chandler. So they're excited to be here, excited to have an opportunity to market these developments and create a master plan community, if you will, with a variety of amenities that will serve not only the residents, but for people that happen to walk into HOA amenities from time to time.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant? Yes, Vice Chair Simon.
Yeah, I just have one, and this just really has to do with the plot layout. Why no access to the south in that development? Was there specific reasoning to that?
There is, through the chair, Vice Chair Simon. That was the source of a robust discussion that most of you were not present for when we were entitling what's called Hamster Dairy or Watterson, because Brooks Farm Road is intended to go east-west. Part of the reason that there is no access coming out of this development to the south is because RWCD, the Roosevelt Water Conservation District, has 20-foot fee simple land that runs across our southern border. There's also a 20-foot RWCD easement as well, but that fee simple land abuts up to the south side of our property. And so in discussions with RWC, they have plans for big regional type improvements to their irrigation system. And so because of that and not wanting to disrupt those future plans, we were unable to get access across that fee simple land to be able to connect to Brooks Farm. But I'll tell you that one of the things that we've tried to do, and I recognize that this is a city of Chandler, Veterans Oasis Park, nevertheless, that is a huge amenity in the area. And in all of our developments, and if we were to show you the pedestrian circulation plan, we've got an 8-foot wide sidewalk that runs through the middle of this to be able to get pedestrians to move down to that southwest portion of our site. And so we're cognizant of that asset in the area and are utilizing it, again, with the pedestrian circulation plan in Watterson Central, as well as in Watterson on the south. And we've tried to incorporate these 3 developments, even though they're 3 different parcels, as one. There will be a master HOA over all of these properties. And so that's kind of why we didn't go to Brooks Farm.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Brendan. Gentlemen, do you have any questions of staff or the applicant that we need to address, or could we close the public hearing? I think we'll close the public hearing then, bring it to the dais. If you have any discussion among ourselves about this project, any concerns, let's address them. If not, let's hear a motion. Yes.
One comment from my side is just that, I mean, probably very few people actually like SFD. However, I think it does benefit this site. I think it, affordability is an issue, and I think it allows residents to purchase a home who maybe otherwise couldn't at this kind of price point. So I appreciate sort of the variety of product in this site, and so I'm supportive of that.
Okay. Thank you for making that point. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for the resident that came out to speak tonight. I appreciate it. Understand that we do take it very seriously when residents come out and speak and have something to say, and take that into consideration. I too like this site. I think that the SFD actually flows well into that commercial space where the Lifetime is proposed to go. So I don't have any issue with this site.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Anybody care to make a motion? Yes,
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
please.
For the reasons set forth in the staff report, moving to recommend approval to the town council for Z20-11 as requested, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Simon, Vice Chair Simon. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 11. It's a zoning case, Z21-01, the Brenda Building, which is downtown Gilbert, being presented by Sydney Bethel.
Good evening, Commissioners. The request before you tonight is Z21-01, the Brunette Building. The subject site is located within the Heritage District, south of the southwest corner of Page Avenue and Gilbert Road. It's approximately 0.365 gross acres and is located between the Norwood Furniture Building and the existing farmhouse restaurant. And presently, it's 3 separate parcels that are all vacant lots. The request is a rezoning request with the PAD overlay, so they are not changing the base zoning district of Heritage Village Center. So they're maintaining that. They're also maintaining their general plan land use designation. But they are requesting to add a PAD overlay to the site in order to increase the permitted height in the HVC zoning district from 55 feet to 68 feet. So just to provide some context, since this is located within the Heritage District, has slightly different process than a traditional rezoning. It was previously presented at study session to the Redevelopment Commission on March 17th, where they provided formal comments. There's also a resident who spoke during the communications from citizens. We then took it back to the Redevelopment Commission for a formal recommendation to the Planning Commission on April 21st. And during that hearing, they did recommend approval with a 3-2 vote. And there were some residents also there to speak, and I will provide some more insight into their concerns later. Tonight, we're at the PC hearing for a formal recommendation to the Town Council, and it is expected to go to Town Council on May 18th for formal decision. Again, just some context since it's in the Heritage District. In addition to the Land Development Code and our general plan that governs the whole town, there's also 2 particular documents that cover this area, the Redevelopment Plan and the Heritage District Design Guidelines. And these are guiding and visioning documents for the area that I'll reference in the presentation. So provided here is the development plan for the planned area development. So this sets the parameters for the development of the building. So as you can see here, they are following all of the setback requirements per their building envelope. For the building, a unique aspect to this, to the development, is that they are proposing a pedestrian throughway off of Gilbert Road that will walk through this way, and over located on the west side is that Water Tower Plaza. So that's something the applicant has provided. This is just a conceptual site plan for reference only that was provided by the applicant to give you a little bit more feel of their ultimate vision and what they're proposing. So in this, they also emphasize that pedestrian walkway along with some proposed outdoor seating on both the front and rear of the property. This is proposed to be a 4-story mixed-use development with the bottom and top floor containing restaurant and bar amenities. So there are 4 requested deviations tonight, one of which was requested by the applicant, 3 that were requested by staff and the Redevelopment Commission to address concerns. This first one is the height request, which was requested by the applicant to increase the maximum height from 55 feet to 68 feet. So here is a conceptual rendering provided by the applicant to display the building form that they are trying to achieve with this height increase. So this is moving into the first requested item from staff and the commission, being a 15-foot minimum building step back for the front elevation of the building fronting Gilbert Road. So here I'm just outlining in orange kind of the area that would be the step back. So anything above 55 feet, that height was selected because that is the current maximum height in the Heritage Village Center zoning district, would have to be stepped back a minimum of 15 feet as they're showing here on their 4th floor. Oh. This is something that's seen in our land development code when a development is within 100 feet of residential for commercial and multifamily. So this is a similar concept applied here in order to allow the development to be more in line with the feel and other buildings in the context of the Heritage District. The next one is actually 3 individual items that all are pertaining to landscaping that are in one condition of approval in your report. The first being a minimum of 10% of the net building area attributed to the balconies, patios, and rooftop deck areas of the 2nd and 4th floor shall be landscaped. This came about because the commission was very concerned that landscaping may be removed when the design review does come through. Again, this is not a design review. We're not discussing design here, but since they showed these items in the elevations, they wanted to ensure that that happened when they came in for formal approval because they believed it enhanced the building and kind of softened the features of it and was more in line with the district. In the 3rd and 4th item on this have to do with minimum tree counts. We just worked with the applicant to select some minimum tree requirements to make sure that got on there, and then also a restriction for the balcony trees so that they be under 20 feet at mature growth so that it's in line with what we're approving for the maximum height. I know I just showed you a few of the renderings, and I'll just quickly go through here. Again, these are all for concept, but it just lets you see the massing and what they're looking to achieve with this height increase. So this is from the pedestrian view on Gilbert Road. And then we're looking from above and an aerial from Gilbert Road as well. This is the rear of the property looking from Water Tower Plaza. And then again, the rear of the property as well. And again, like I said, there's two specific documents that are important to take into consideration with anything that is happening within the Heritage District. First being the redevelopment plan, and the second being the design guidelines. The applicant feels that the concessions that they've provided for the rezoning request meet the intent of both the redevelopment plan and the Heritage District design guidelines. I listed some of the goals and some of the elements in the design guidelines for this. And an item that we need to take into consideration with the redevelopment plan is within the redevelopment plan, there is a provision, and it is located over here. I'm showing you the graphic. Everything that's highlighted in blue is what's impacted by this provision in the plan to have a height limit of 55 feet for all of these buildings in order to preserve the character of the area and to allow the views of the water tower. So that's something to take into consideration, was also a concern of citizens and also the redevelopment commission when going forward with this proposal. I do want to highlight that the purpose of the redevelopment plan is the plan serves as the town's guiding document for prioritizing budgetary needs and key activities to support growth and redevelopment. And this item, building height limitations, is located within a section of the redevelopment plan that includes other suggested regulations, and these are proposed regulatory requirements that are meant to serve as recommendations for updates to the Heritage District Design Guidelines, Land Development Code, and General Plan. So these are things to take into consideration with those documents that are strict code and govern. There was previously a neighborhood meeting last year in July. And during that time, there were quite a few citizens that came and spoke. There was also a citizen who came and spoke in opposition during the council communications for the March 17th study session, and also 2 citizens spoke in opposition at the April 21st RDC meeting. And there was also 3 letters of opposition received since the project was noticed. So to go into some of those concerns that were voiced by the citizens during those times is compliance with the building height limitations within the 2018 redevelopment plan, and disrupting the views of the water tower. So these 2 things go hand in hand with the height request as major concerns. The next being impacting the existing farmhouse building located to the north. So the farmhouse building is quite an old building and is an adobe structure, and there are some concerns from surrounding property owners regarding the integrity of the building. So that is something that the applicant is aware of and has stated that they are going to work with the property owner when it gets to the construction phases in order to ensure that they cannot impact the building during construction. The next being concerns with the new development impacting existing and future north-south circulation connections. So previously in the old redevelopment plan, there was a pedestrian connection that went north-south on the west side of this development where that access way is, and then alley. That has now been moved over to the west further, and it's called the Paseo, and I can show you an exhibit from the updated redevelopment plan if you'd like, but that's a concern there. And then ultimately also parking concerns were raised. So this is something that will be addressed during the design review process. But within the Heritage District, parking has the ability to be off-site and accommodated through either our surface parking or our parking garages through the administrative use permit process when they come in for design review. As I previously mentioned, this was heard by the Redevelopment Commission on April 21st, and they recommended to approval of the project with a 3-2 vote, with 2 commissioners dissenting. The commissioners who were dissenting, one of them did not state exactly why he voted no on there, but Commissioner Meehan expressed concerns on the increase in the height proposed, citing that it was difficult to fully visualize the scale of the building and its visual impact, making it difficult to approve the request. She also stated later that she wanted to be in compliance with the redevelopment plan. That's why she made that decision. Staff is recommending approval of the project, and we recommend that you recommend approval to the Town Council for the Brunette project. And I'm available for questions. We also have the applicant here, and he has a presentation if you'd like to see that as well, or he's available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to start out? Please, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a question for you. So they are asking for the 6 to 8 foot height increase. The building that's next to Whiskey Row that has the rooftop bar there. Do you know what the height of that building is? I'm just trying to get some perspective.
Yeah, building 313 is 46 feet. So
That's
that is 3 stories. So it's a small 3-story building.
So that one is in compliance to. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
All right, so this one would be significantly almost 20 feet taller than that building.
Commissioner Anderson, that is correct.
Okay. In this particular application, part of the zoning request is to meet landscape requirements, they want to put trees on top of the building?
Correct.
Okay. Any concern about if they do that? Because I've seen some times during the summertime when we have our monsoon season, those haboobs can get pretty strong and rip trees out of ground. And I guess the concern I would have is if we have trees up on top of a building and one of those things comes through, next thing you know, we got trees falling on people on the street, the sidewalk. So I would have a concern about that. Does staff have any concern with that?
Commissioner Anderson, that is actually something that has not come up as a discussion. We could look into further because I know in particular, for example, desert trees such as Palo Verdes and such are more prone to those types of monsoon storms and falling over. So maybe we can, during design review, discuss with the applicant and really look into those particular tree types to ensure that we have a better chance of not having any type of issues like that arise. But that is a really great point you bring up.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions for now.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Commissioner
Yeah.
Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. Sydney, on a couple of other buildings there in the Heritage District, so the CoLab building, the University building, can you comment a little bit on the heights of those buildings and how that compares?
Commissioner Jones, so the CoLab building, I believe, is 64 feet to top of parapet. Here it is here. Yeah, it is 64 feet, I believe. And then also the Park University building is 68 feet, 8 inches. So both of those are higher and were achieved through PAD overlays.
Commissioner Munt.
Thank you, Chairman Bloomfield. I just want to, at least note that in regards to the height increase blocking views for residentials, if that were a question of anyone, that given the way it backs up to the tower, and the water tower, I believe, is 230 feet, that outside of somebody walking directly across the street, I don't believe that the actual view would be impacted by any of this. That doesn't mean that I think that's a blank check for it, that I would completely agree it's necessary, but I don't believe there's any real concerns that adjustment would impact any current homeowners' views of the water tower, as it were. Did you guys, as staff, Stephanie, look at the line of sight distance of how far the homes are back behind the parking lot of all of the buildings on the west side there, and whether or not that there was any aesthetic view impacts to having this put in?
Commissioner Munt, no, there is no type of views shed analysis. I will say, which is something I should have emphasized in my presentation, that the largest concerns about views to the water towers are actually coming from the property owners, the commercial property owners from across Gilbert Road, and then also to the north, another property owner as well, who has concerns regarding that. So it's more of
Because the
developments on
commercial?
the east side commercial.
Okay. And I could see them having that issue then, from the commercial standpoint. I thought that it was residential, so, okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
How long has this applicant owned this property?
Chairman Bloomfield, I don't know how long they've owned this specifically. The applicant may be able to speak on this, but Norwood's Furniture I know has been here for over 30 years, so it's the same family that owns that furniture store that owns this site.
Okay. And I guess where I'm headed with that is, if we have this redevelopment commission and we have a 2018 kind of redesign of those schedules, if this was anticipated to be a project that might need extra height, did it make sense to kind of work it into that RDC and the public comments in that, and wondered if they had any, if they had participated in that public comment and those public hearings and tried to get this addressed then, so that we didn't have to have it go through such an onerous project or process at this point in time. So it's just a question of mine, so.
Yeah, Chairman Bloomfield, I'm not sure if the property owner is here tonight. No, that's not, sorry. I met him once, but it's hard with the mask. I don't recognize everyone all the time. So I don't think he's here tonight. Maybe the applicants can speak on that. I'm not sure if they were involved with the redevelopment plan. I know that a lot of the business owners and some of the business owners here tonight to speak on the project were involved on it. So I would assume yes, based off of how long they've been here, but I can't say for sure.
Sure. Commissioner Jones, you had a comment?
No, I just think I was part of the redevelopment commission, and this wasn't made aware, at least from my recollection, that this was coming as part of that.
Okay.
So I wasn't
right.
aware of it.
And that, I mean, that would be a long forward planning, you know, I agree to that, but still, it's just a question. Anybody else have any questions of Sydney? Okay. Sydney, will open it up to a public hearing and invite the applicant up if they wish to make a presentation or add anything to what you've already done. Would the applicant like to speak? It's okay if you don't. That's fine. But just,
The applicant stated that he'd rather have the neighbor speak first and then
Sure.
respond at the end if we're okay to move in that direction.
we are just fine with doing that then. We have 3 cards up here for people who wish to speak. Alan Fitzgerald is opposed and wishes to speak. And Susan Pasternak is opposed, but did not mark if she would like to speak, and that's okay if you want to or not. So I'll let that be your call. And then Mary Ellen Fresquez also is opposed, but also did not mark that they wish to speak. So we'll start with Alan and then Susan and Mary Ellen. If you wish to speak after that, you sure may. And Alan, we'd like to keep you to 3 minutes if possible, okay?
I'll do my best. I'm not known for being brief.
Oh,
so
boy.
We'll work on that.
Sure.
Good evening, Commissioners. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'd like to stand here, and I am a resident of Gilbert and have been for well over 30 years, first at County Island and then moving into the groves of Gilbert, and have enjoyed the development that has occurred in the town of Gilbert. It was about 8,000 folks when I showed up, and there's a few more these days. And the downtown reflects that growth and that enthusiasm and the energy. And if I go back to, the vibe that existed as things were developing downtown, we're really looking for, clean, vibrant kind of a downtown. There's been 4 iterations of this redevelopment plan, and this is the 4th iteration of that plan. And when you look at the acknowledgements for the people who worked on this plan, you see stakeholders, the mayor at the time, Jen Daniels, the mayor currently, Bridget Peterson, and other people, Scott Anderson, Eddie Cook, that were council members who approved this plan. And then you look at the consultants that we hired in 2015 to come in and to dig deeply into what had happened in the past, because there's been probably 20 or so years of looking and planning of what could be and what could we have, and we have this beautiful downtown. You may go back in some documents and find that the redevelopment commission, the Heritage District is actually a blight and redevelopment area. That's how it got started, because 20 years ago it wasn't as beautiful as it is today. And one of the reasons it's beautiful today is we had visionaries. And we had people like the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Redevelopment Commission that actually sat down and looked at what could be. So they wrote a plan, and then another, and then another. And finally, we have this 2018 plan that we have this great long list of people who participated and had clarity in what could be. An open book, which is what the downtown was 10 years ago. Postino wasn't downtown. That was 7 failed restaurants in a row. We had Joe's Barbecue, we had Liberty Market, we had the Farmhouse. And those were our restaurants downtown. And we had the Heritage Court building. I purchased property, condos or business condos there. I currently own over 14,000 square feet in that building, which I have my business as well as leased to other businesses. So the downtown is a significant part of my life and my investment, and I want to see the plan enacted and executed and in place. Without a plan and an open book, we have chaos, and we need to avoid that. I do want to make a couple points which I think are very relevant to the conversation that's happened this evening so far. Commissioner Munt, I'd like to get some clarification on the height of the water tower. I'm not precise in what I think the height is, but I don't think it's over 200 feet tall. I don't know if we can get some clarification on that. It's 128 feet tall. To that point, from my building and from the sidewalk in front of my business and the street pedestrians that would be visiting the downtown and enjoying all the benefits that have come out of the planning that has occurred so far, the renderings of this construction don't adequately represent the view that will be present when you're at the face or the base of the building or across the street. It will impede the vision of the water tower. From the perspective of where the energy is, we're going to see a building that's very narrow and very tall, and these renderings do not represent what will be seen at the street level. In the design guideline, and I carefully use the word guideline because we know that things change and that sometimes things need to change. But the building height limitation very clearly says buildings shall not be. We're not recommending it, we're not suggesting it, or we'd like it to be. It very clearly says shall not exceed the maximum height of 55 feet. It's a shall. I know how shalls go, but in this case it's very clearly stated in black and white. The 3 lots that will occupy this proposed construction, this proposed building, were by any stretch of the imagination blights on Gilbert Road. They were unpainted, unclean, roaches in the windowsill, and this is the space and the workspace of the Brundrettes. They have an alleyway easement to allow them to connect 2 buildings, and part of that negotiation in the last lease was that a walkway be created for pedestrian circulation. That is not a generous gift to the town of Gilbert. It was a negotiation so that they could block the alleyway that actually lives north-south from the back of the Farmhouse restaurant around to the back of the American Legion and into the pocket park that I helped to build with the Gilbert leadership class. We're very proud of that park and that mural. I would always like to see that walkway extend north and south, but that lease is in place.
Mr. Fitzgerald, you've far exceeded your 3 minutes. So if you wish to wrap up a few main points, please do so.
I surely will.
Thank you.
What I'd like is for you to look at the impact of that building, the visual impact through a different set of renderings that have been presented in the package. I don't think we should exceed this building, and clearly Building 313 has been in compliance and in consideration for the experience of our visitors in the Gilbert downtown. The other buildings that were mentioned and their height, they are not in this corridor. Those buildings are off the corridor, they are off Gilbert Road, and are irrelevant to this conversation about building height simply because of the location. Thank you for your time.
Good points. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Susan Pasternak. Welcome tonight.
Thank you. This is the first time I've been to a planning meeting, so thank you for letting citizens speak. I've been a resident of Gilbert for 44 years when it was a town of 5,000. For 30 years, I've lived in the Groves of Gilbert on Elliott, and currently the HOA president, but I'm here just as a citizen. I will say that many of the residents of our neighborhood walk to downtown, ride our bikes to downtown. And so the view of the tower is something that's relevant to us. I had 3 points, and Alan has spoken really to 2 of them. And one was that even though that's called a 4-story building, at that height, it's really equivalent to a 5-story building. And to have that height of a building in a block that's all 1-story heritage businesses is just not as attractive. Now, I had not seen until tonight the views of the building, and it certainly does do some of the more appealing street view than what I had in my mind. But those are the main points of blocking the view and it not being very consistent with that whole block of buildings. The other point I wanted to make is something you, Mr. Bloomfield, kind of alluded to, and that's the fact that the owner of this lot, Mr. Bundret, is in a family that's had buildings on that block for 30 years. And if anyone, he should have been very informed about what all the development requirements were from the Planning Commission. So for him to proceed to an architect to request drawings and all of that for a building that exceeded the height of that business area, and for an architect then, it seemed to me, would have done all the research to understand what the restrictions were for that lot, that it was almost as though, as a citizen, and to me, it looks as though they had a disregard for what had been developed for all this period of time and thought that it would be easy for them to get an exception. They spent a lot of money on these plans for a building that they should have known from the beginning did not meet the town's requirements. So that's my concern, and I thank you for letting me have my say. Thanks.
You bet. Thank you, Mrs. Pasternak. Okay, Mary Ellen Frescas.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Mary Ellen Frescas. I've lived in Gilbert for 27 years. I'm also in the Groves, so Alan and Susan are my neighbors. I also have had a couple of businesses in the Heritage District, and I currently am a property owner there. I own property at 225 North Gilbert Road, which is currently occupied by Flashback Antiques. For a long time, I felt that the documents that defined downtown were outdated, and they were. Downtown was on a rapid growth curve, growing faster as our documents grew older. But today we have a redevelopment plan that was approved in 2018 and design guidelines that were approved last year. During the many meetings with stakeholders and business owners and residents and consultants, and I went to many, many meetings, I never heard anybody arguing for tall buildings or taller than 55 feet. But in the recent past, I've actually heard the redevelopment chair state that if he is asked for a 75-foot building, well, he would have absolutely no problem with that. And so I asked, why is that? Where did that vision come from? It certainly wasn't stated when we were working on either the guidelines or the redevelopment plan. So back in the day when I was on the redevelopment commission, which is a while back, I was on there for 12 years, from the early 2000s on. We had a design assistance team. It was called a DAT. And even then, the intent was always to have buildings that were 2 to 3 stories in the center of the Heritage District, going up to 3, 4, and possibly 5 stories on the perimeter of the Heritage District. So my main argument tonight is that maintaining sightlines to the iconic water tower is important. It's very important. But I have other concerns also. And I know that if you approve tonight and the council approves on the 18th, these will be probably, I guess, looked at during design review, but I think that they're very important right now. Number one is parking. We can say that we have parking structures that take care of parking in the Heritage District, but they are millions of dollars. I don't know if the town's willing to do that. I'm worried about potential damage to the farmhouse, and I believe that there's a compromised service alley, actually non-existent alley, which is a serious detriment to good urban design. And I hope that all of you got the letter that I sent, but I just wanted to reiterate that I'm just not just complaining. I hope to have some solutions. One is to address the parking issues, to address the potential damage to the farmhouse, and perhaps that's by putting the pedestrian walkway that's suggested to go east and west on the south side of this new building, and therefore it wouldn't even, or on the north side rather, near the farmhouse, and that way that when they're building that building, it wouldn't really affect the farmhouse as much. I believe that alley restrictions should be relieved. I believe that that lease that currently gives the right-of-way to the Brundretts should be not renewed. And I believe that a 55-foot building there can be built. That's it. That's what an owner right now has the right to build. And then I finished my letter by saying, really, if the town was thinking out of the box, they might consider a land swap with this applicant and build this beautiful building, which it is a beautiful building, on the northwest corner of Gilbert and Elliott at the entry point to the Heritage District. Anyway, I'm just saying, think out of the box. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Good points. Thank you for coming out tonight. Would the applicant like to speak now?
Chairman, may I
Yes,
open
ma'am.
up the phone lines just to make sure nobody is waiting to speak?
Sure.
I will unmute the phone lines. If anybody wishes to speak on this topic, please state your name. You are now unmuted.
Okay, we don't have anybody. Sir, would you like to come up and speak?
Just use the arrows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just use your
Good evening, Chairman and Commission members. My name is Peter Koliopoulos. I'm the president of Circle West Architects. We're based here in Phoenix, Arizona. We've been here a little bit over 20 years. We've had the good fortune to be hired by the Brundretts on the planning and design of the building we're proposing. Just a little bit about our firm. We've founded the firm in 1992. We are based here in Phoenix area, but we do work across the country. Our work is known for being very contextual and really understanding the neighbors in the context of the architecture and planning concepts of that specific area and neighborhood. So working with the Brundretts on really all the things I've been saying this evening and what we're proposing. So a little bit is we kind of wanted to highlight some of the comments that have been made. So from a planning and design standpoint, we're very excited to be here, quite honestly. We're very excited to present our design. We're very proud of the design.
We believe that the design addresses positively all the aspects that have been spoken about tonight, and I'm happy to walk you through that if you just bear with me a little bit. So as some of the views that you've seen through the previous presentation, I would like to add that with respect to the perspectives and the views, these are exactly accurate relative to a person walking on the sidewalk or a car driving on the street. These views aren't enhanced or exaggerated in any distinct way. Our concern, and really the project concern, is that obviously the view of the water tower is paramount, and through the different views and placement of the buildings, we can say that there's going to be no business or pedestrian view that's going to be negatively impacted to view the water tower. And the reason that is because the building that's on top of the roof area is really developed in part to house some of our mechanical equipment. So the graphic that we have here, I just wanted to highlight that in the previous presentation, you spoke about the reference building down the street, 313 at the 46-foot height cornice line, I'll call it. Our cornice line, if you will, is at 48 feet. And we call that our cornice line because we believe, through the perspectives that we're showing you, that the building in question, or really the 8 feet or so that we're speaking about here, we highlighted in blue. So basically, just to walk you through some of the numbers, we have 48 feet at our cornice line. We have 60 feet, which is our roof deck. The additional 8 feet is really a screening for our mechanical equipment. So the way we approached it is that, wouldn't it be fun and fantastic for the town of Gilbert to have people on the rooftop enjoying the views, not only of the water tower, but of the surrounding views, 360, enjoying the evening lights, etc. And that's really how the discussion started with the Burgettes. So typically in the building, as an architect, we'll design the building, and then on top of that building will be our rooftop mechanical equipment. We'll screen the mechanical equipment in a variety of ways. But in our discussions with the Burgettes, we thought, hey, let's take a look at having something fun and unique that people would have strong memories of. And we believe strongly that through the views back to the water tower, that no business or pedestrian views of the water tower are going to be negatively impacted. And the reason we say that so confidently is that the plan view that we're speaking of is in this area right here. So this is the rectangle, if you will. That's our rooftop element that houses our mechanical equipment. So we have Gilbert Road on the right. We've set back the building 35 feet from our building facing Gilbert Road. We're approximately 2 feet already behind the property line off of Gilbert Road. On the west side, we're setting back the building 20 feet. And on the north side, we're setting back the building about 20 feet. So the idea that, and highlighted in blue, that building rooftop element, we believe very confidently, and you could see some from the this perspective in particular, and the fact that we want to make it a sustainable building, hence why we're adding some of the landscaping and trees that we're noting here. We feel that this building will define Gilbert Road in a strong way. The extension of the height that we're requesting is really for the rooftop mechanical equipment screening. Obviously, on the rooftop, we want to have people out there, so we have some of the building to be enclosed for the people that will be up there. And the views that we're speaking of, and the views that we're speaking of back to and from the water tower, the studies that we've done, and we've walked around the neighborhood and developed these perspectives, there's not going to be any negative impact from any business or pedestrian view of the water tower. Additionally, we've taken great pains to step back and develop setbacks within the building off of Gilbert Road, as well as from the water tower park elevation, such that, if you will, by right, we can go to a zero property line and set up a shear wall, a vertical wall, if you will, all the way up 55 feet. We didn't think that was conducive to the town of Gilbert, to the whole concept of what we're trying to do here with the overall design. And we're very sensitive to our neighbors of what they're communicating, but we also believe strongly that we're addressing the concerns of the overall building height and mitigating the additional 8 feet we're requesting for screening of the mechanical equipment.
Okay,
If you have any questions or comments.
thank you. Commissioners, have anything you would like to ask the applicant or comments you'd like to make? Anyone? Commissioner Jones.
Can I ask one question? You mentioned this 48-foot height. Tell me again what that is exactly versus the 55, the 60, the 68.
Okay, all right, very good. So maybe I could start out with this perspective. So the 48 feet that I mentioned, Commissioner, is to the top of this horizontal line. I don't know if you could see it, the cursor. So the view, this perspective view, is we set it up at 48 feet. Okay, so we have one floor, our first floor, and then we have 2 floors, and that's our, I'll call that for now, our cornice line. So the top of that line is at 48 feet. And to reinforce what I was communicating visually with this perspective is that, as you can see, you do not see the building or the rooftop mechanical equipment that we're requesting the additional 8 feet on, because we stepped it back and set it back from that cornice line in all directions.
But help me understand how you go from 48 to 68 when you're saying 8-foot rooftop to hide the mechanicals.
Okay, okay, very good. All right, so let me see if I can, okay. So the 48-foot line, if you will, the cornice line I mentioned, Commissioner, is in this area, okay? Then from that 48 feet line, we have what we're calling our top of mechanical roof, which is this horizontal line. That's at 60 feet, okay? The shaded blue that is the additional 8 feet, okay? So from 48 feet to the 60 feet is our occupiable area. That's our treated space. And that's the space or building, if you will, that we set back from Gilbert Road to 35 feet and then 20 feet in either of the other directions.
So that top building that sits on top of this, that it's a 20-foot tall building, essentially. It's
yeah, I would say less than that, but
okay.
yes.
Practically, okay.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Yes.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for doing that. So you're indicating, you mentioned, obviously the height challenge that the neighbors take exception to houses mechanical equipment, right? But you mentioned that you could take the wall straight up, like in the back. I mean, can you take a footprint of a lower floor and house a mechanical room, which would address everybody's concern? Also, just my opinion, mechanical equipment tends to be pretty loud, and it might be more enjoyable if there's no mechanical equipment on the roof. I don't know if that's, is it open air or is it enclosed?
Yeah, it's open air.
Okay.
Yeah, it's open air.
Anyway, just a thought to address everybody's concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the concerns that I've had as I've looked at this and listened to the presentation, looked at the staff report. Intriguing building. You did a great job. It's a fun design, just like you said. And so because it seems like such a unique building and design for this part of downtown, I'm inclined to go with it because it just looks so enticing and inviting. However, we do have these regulations in place for a reason. And if we're only going, is it 4 stories? Or is it 3 stories inside the building?
Well, technically, we call it 3 stories with the rooftop element.
Okay, so we've got 3 stories that are 45 feet tall, right? Because that cornice line is at 45 feet.
48.
48,
Yeah.
okay, so we've got 16 feet for each story. Is there a reason why it needs to be that? Can it shorten up any in there? And what's
driving that?
What's driving
Yeah,
that? Because
yeah.
that seems like an excessive amount.
Well, we love the idea of a fun building, but
Sure.
we're also practical, okay? And we're fortunate that our client wants to do a Class A building, and a Class A building requires Class A tenants, okay? And the heights are driven by the market or the client demands of those types of uses. So obviously on the first floor, we're planning some type of restaurant or restaurants on the first floor. So we design many different types of restaurants and bars. So we know exactly the type of heights and dimensions that those types of clients are looking for. The floors 2 and 3 are going to be office floors. And similarly, with now, this isn't going to be a corporate office. It's going to be more of a boutique office. So there may be 2 different companies or 3 different companies in here. But the idea is that those heights are driven to accommodate those types of companies that would want to be in this environment. So that's in part what's driving the heights, to allow for the appropriate height dimensions within the space, but also to accommodate correctly lighting, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing requirements for each of those spaces, and the distribution of all those elements and services.
Sure. Okay. It just seemed larger than many of the buildings that I've constructed and dealt with in the past. So that's the reason why I asked the question.
Okay.
So,
Jerry, can I ask a
Representative
question?
Yes.
I just want to question on a statement that you made, that it sounds like the main reason for this height request for 68 feet is to attract Class A tenants to the building. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
All right.
In part.
So correct me if I'm wrong, are there not Class A tenants in downtown Gilbert right now that are operating within the height limits? I mean, we got Whiskey Row, we got Oso, Culinary Dropout, Nico's, we got Pocinos. To me, all Class A tenants that are all operating within the height limits. So I'm just not sure I fully understand your argument or your reasoning.
Fair enough. And by the way, we were the architect for Culinary Dropout, so we're very conscious of the Heritage District here in the town of Gilbert. Well, the Class A tenants that you mentioned, they are Class A, there's no question about it. However, they're all single-story buildings. In other words, there's no additional users on top of, in other words, we don't have additional floors on top of Culinary Dropout or on top of Postino's, for example. So what happens, and I don't want to get too granular here, but just to clarify and respect your comment, Commissioner, is that when we're having a mixed-use environment, specifically when we're stacking vertically the mix of uses, the appropriate clearances and distribution of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, in addition to the structural system, but specifically mechanical, electrical, plumbing is critical for it to be efficient and sustainable and to service each of those users correctly. So, like for instance, in culinary dropout, the height of CDO, if you will, far exceeds a normal first floor. We're on culinary dropout, we're well above 18 feet, okay? And because we're a single-story building. Here, what we've done is we're vertically stacking the different uses, and because of that, that drives some of the floor height dimensions to get the appropriate clearances to get the ducts and other services where they need to go correctly.
Okay. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant or for staff or anything like that? Can we close the public hearing? I guess that's my question. I think we'll close the public hearing, bring it to the dais.
Thank you.
For discussion. Thank you. You want me to go first?
I can start it off.
Go ahead.
So,
Commissioner Anderson.
I live near downtown Gilbert, and I spend a lot of time in that area and spend a lot of money in those establishments, supporting them with, the restaurants and the bars and whatnot. So I'm very familiar with that area, and I love that area. And I love how it's just constantly growing and evolving over time, and I'm excited to see how that area is going to look in 5, 10, 15 years from now. I guess my hang up is I don't think I can support the height increase for this, and the main reason for that is 68 feet next, wedged in between two one-story buildings on each side on Gilbert Road. I don't think it's going to look appropriate, especially knowing the height of, what is it, 301? Is that what it's called across the street? That's at 48 feet or so. And the two examples that Sydney brought up of the buildings that are 68 feet, I think those work for those locations because they're off the strip, they're set back, and the massing of them requires a taller building and for the use that's happening in them. For this particular lot, I know exactly where it is. I drive by it every day, and it's a real narrow lot. And to wedge in a 68-foot tall building into that little lot, it's going to seem really out of place, massing-wise. So I don't see any reason why the applicant cannot design another fantastic-looking building to fit within the height requirements. So I just don't think I can support this. I love to see that lot finally getting developed, and seeing that whole area continuously grow. But I don't see any reason why 68 feet is required for or needed for that site.
Okay, thank you. Please, Commissioner Blazer.
So I appreciate all the presentations and the public coming out. Carl, you mentioned it's just a really cool project, and I agree with that. It's a really cool project, and I kind of gravitate towards it. I'm concerned about the height. I'm concerned about the way it's going to look adjacent to those smaller buildings. So I could almost get on board with it if I knew that redevelopment was going to occur next to it and large buildings were going to go next to it. I could probably get on board with it. Super concerned about the historic buildings next to it, the adobe structures.
For sure.
What precautions, I don't know how the town can regulate that, but what precautions could go into ensuring that there's no structural damage that occurs.
One big, large insurance policy, that's all.
Yeah.
It is.
But my main concern is the height. It seems like they could address that, though, and overcome that. For all of the reasons I think that the public expressed pretty well.
Yeah.
Those regulations are in place. They're not very old. I also appreciate that it's a mechanical the mechanical system set back, and they did what they could to avoid disrupting the view. I think the trees may grow taller than that, though. So if we're concerned about the view, those trees could grow taller. Anyway, so I don't know that I can support it for those reasons.
Okay. And I thought your point about mechanical equipment being noisy up there with rooftop accessibility and rooftop uses with people and parties, and that sounds difficult, but I'm not an architect. I'm only an engineer. So that's okay. Yes, Commissioner Munt.
Thank you, Chairman Bloomfield. We'll keep it on this side of the dais. I'm going to say that I think this building is awesome. I think it's really cool. But I go back and I'd like to echo the fact that we have done multiple plans and the redevelopment plans and set limitations, and I don't know that I've seen a very compelling reason exactly why outside of it would be a fun use, which I agree with, but I don't understand that that is a primary economic driver as to the viability of a project there, which would, in my mind, conclude that a variance would be justified. So I think you could make this work with the height, and I work right downtown there, and I know, the view personally won't be impacted, but I think the idea of how that will look next to the other buildings as well as those historic structures is a very important component of which went into the planning processes. It was set to these height restrictions, and I would be remiss to not at least make a best effort to follow that. So
Thank you, Commissioner Munt. Keeping it on this side, I'm just going to give you the opportunity here. So, okay, Commissioner Jones.
I echo a lot of the same comments. I absolutely love this design, and I think this is more of what's needed. I love the landscaping. I love the setbacks. I love the uses. There's many things that I love about this project, but I think I have those same concerns that it just isn't the right time for this. I think, what's unfortunate a little bit is probably in 10 years as the redevelopment district continues to develop and more vertically, this may not seem like such a huge ask, but at this time, next to these adjacent uses, I don't see the reason to approve this.
Okay. Okay. Vice Chair is taking a shot. Good.
So I've had the opportunity to speak with the property owner as well as some of the stakeholders and residents. And as easy as this decision may seem, black and white, it's actually a very difficult decision for me, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people about it because it does tug at me, because I do think that this property and the design is actually quite incredible, and I think the uses, the way that they're laid out, I think is very well done. If this building were 55 feet, 50 feet, you could argue 55 feet, 60 feet, because you have 60 feet with the flashings or with the parapet, it would not even come to us. It would go straight to council. You could argue that somebody could step in with a 313 building that is 4 stories tall, that is a block dropped in that spot, and there's nothing we could do to stop it. Sure, we could make recommendations and we could say, hey, we'd like it to look a little bit different, but there's really nothing we could do to stop it. And I would like to commend the owners of this property for the work that they've done to make something that is very unique, very different, and I think brings a lot to the Heritage District. Obviously, the holdup is that extra 8 feet, 13 feet, however you want to slice it. I still don't know which direction I'd go, and we've listened to this whole thing. I can tell you that I know that this property will be developed. I hope that it's developed in a way that's been presented to us with the use that's been presented. And I hope that there is a way that it will actually continue the growth of the Heritage District as we know it. I mean, we've seen what's coming. So whether this goes now or it goes in 5 years or 10 years, it's going to happen. And I don't see some of those other buildings rising as high as this one does if in the next 20 years. So I just want to state, I think that this development is warranted at this point. I think that we are going to start seeing height in the Heritage District. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Commissioner Blazer wants to take another stab.
Yeah, so one other thought I had that I didn't express, that as I'm trying to process this, are we lacking vision by saying no? I mean, I just wonder that, you know, because somebody's got to be first, right, along that stretch, if that's going to get redeveloped. If it's going to stay the same,
Shouldn't we try to get at least 2 or 3 55s in there before we go to 68 when nothing else is even close? We've got a 313 that's much less than 55. So I'm thinking let's go with 2 or 3 55s, then let's step up to 68. Let's let it progress.
I can get on board with that.
I watch toddlers, a lot of them. I had toddlers at my house for 18 years, and they don't get up and run 100-yard dashes. We start out a little bit at a time, so I say we just start a little bit at a time. Let's work within the realm of what we have. But that's just a thought of mine. So anybody else want to have any more stabs or make a...
I do have a question, Chair.
Yes.
So let's just say for a scenario here is there's a recommendation to council for denial.
Okay.
What does that actually mean? Obviously, we're just making a recommendation. Council will have the final say. But if it's a denial, does that mean the project can't get built?
No.
It just means they can't get
it
the
just means it moves forward to council with our recommendation to deny.
But let's say it goes on to
approve.
council, and council, they denied it as well. So does that mean they're just denying the height increase,
Mhm.
or that's it?
Yeah.
They can still proceed forward just with a different design.
Just with
to
55
meet
feet.
within the height requirements. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I look at the Heritage. The Heritage Commission is there, and I look at them as the gatekeepers. They're the visionaries for that development, for that area. That's their role. And ours is, in this one, is a zoning case to kind of, but the unique thing about it is that they recommend, it comes to us recommended from them. And so if they're the visionaries and they're the gatekeepers, should we just continue it on and kick the can down the road, so to speak? And so all of those thoughts have rattled through this empty head of mine as well,
So another question too. So is there two parts to this request? So it's the height, and then there's the landscape requirement, right? Isn't the landscape requirement to meet it, they wanted to put it on top, different levels of the roof?
Yeah, I think that staff put on recommendations for the landscaping on the top and keeping the, what was it? There were three. There was a 15-foot setback minimum, which they're at 35 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 10% net build with the deck rooftop with regards to the plants on the rooftop, 10% minimum, and then the height restriction at 20 feet for those
Okay.
trees.
So is there an opportunity, because I think the other items could probably be doable. Those to me are design review items that the Redevelopment Commission would handle. You know, I'm still not keen about putting trees on top of the roofs and with the potential of those things becoming spears later on down the line, whatever boom comes through. But again, that's a design review issue to resolve. So is there an opportunity to do, just thinking out loud, so at least they can get that, to do recommended approval, but striking out the height restriction, the height increase? So at least their case is moving along to council with an approval with all the other items that they're asking, minus the height increase.
Yeah. That's a fair question. Sydney, would you weigh in?
Chair Bloomfield, Commissioner Anderson. So those specific provisions were actually added by staff based off of the recommendation of the Redevelopment Commission. So that's not something that was requested by the applicant. They just showed that rendering, and we just wanted to capture that because we know that type of engineering to have plant life on there can be quite expensive and is removed typically on urban buildings. It's one of the first thing to be valued engineered. So that is not something that was being requested by the applicant, but something they agreed to do along with the step back. So that's not the only thing they're requesting is the height increase. I don't know if that helps clarify.
Yeah, as a zoning case, that's the only thing that we would have any statement over or any control over, I think. So, thank you, Sydney. Well, most of the discussion is leaning towards killing this thing and not recommending it. But the recommendation from staff and from the Redevelopment Commission is to recommend it. So it comes to us with both hands and two thumbs up. Taking on kind of a negative bent here. So anybody want to make a motion and follow the recommendation, see how it goes, and then at least then we'll know. Can recommend approval or recommend a denial. We'll just go with however the vote lands. Somebody make a recommendation, though.
You know, I've been pretty vocal on this one. I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend denial to Town Council of Z21-01. Mainly for me, it's the height increase. I don't think it's needed or warranted for this particular site.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Munt. All in favor of recommending denial to the Town Council?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. There's our answer. Okay.
Chairman, just to confirm, that was a 6-1 vote
6-1 vote.
with Vice Chair Simon being the nay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. Item number 13, Vice Chair. Our minutes, sorry. I could tee you up a little better.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting April 7th as written.
Second? Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Chairman Bloomfield?
Yes.
We still have item 12.
Item 12 was done previously in the
okay.
consent agenda.
Thank you.
All right. Items number 15, report from chairman and members of the commission. Does anybody have anything to say on current events in the town? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we turn the AC off.
At this time of
I'll
the night,
second that.
for whatever reason, at about 7:30, it cranks on, and I'm glad I have a suit coat on. So.
I'm a nay on that. Let's keep it going.
All right. No other reports, so I think we'll move on. Ava, Planning Services Manager.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief, but I wanted to thank Stephanie Bubenheim for all her work this evening and over the past few years. This is her last Planning Commission meeting as senior planner for the Planning Division, but she isn't going far. She's moving over to Transportation Planning to become their senior planner. So just wanted to thank Stephanie and know she'll be missed.
Didn't we just lose one over to traffic planning?
Yes, we lost Sydney last month to Economic Development.
Wasn't there a planner about 4 months ago that went over to traffic?
Yes, now you're just making me feel terrible. Yes. Nathan Williams was also in the Planning Division, and he went over to Transportation Planning, so Stephanie will be joining him there.
I believe we may need to have commission sensitivity training to help to stop this attrition.
Yeah. Councilmember September, can't we do anything about internal lobbying and stealing of good staff?
Yeah, it's been quite quite a lot of shifting around internally. In fact, we even had a planner start with the town from Scottsdale, and then actually got goat roped back to Scottsdale. So there's quite a lot of movement. We hope for some consistency and the backfill of some of these roles to keep the planning wheels turning.
Well, people move internally, but when you lose to Scottsdale, that is insulting.
Their planning commission must be much more personable.
Yeah, well, she came from Scottsdale. We only had her about a week before Scottsdale stole her back.
Yeah, oh boy. Okay. Well, may the 4th be with you yesterday about hiring all these new people in here then to replace them, so. All right, with that, we could stay here, Chris. He's already upstairs prepping the room, so nobody else is here. All right. We will reconvene in the adjacent room, I guess.